Okay, so let's talk about a guy who seems to completely defy human limits. Davidgoggins. He gets called the toughest man alive all the time. And what we're going to do here is get into the how of it all. The mental toolkit he literally built from scratch to turn himself into a machine. To even start to get Goggins, you gotta look at the numbers. And this one is just insane. 4,030 pull-ups. Not over a few weeks, in 17 hours. This was a Guinness World Record. And it's a feat that honestly sounds completely made up. But, before all these crazy records, there was the transformation. He went from almost 300 pounds all the way down to 191. That's 106 pounds gone in less than 3 months, so he could qualify for the Navy SEALs. This was not a diet plan. This was an absolute war on his own body. Yeah, and about those SEALs. For most people who even get through Hell Week, and that's a brutal 5-day test that breaks almost everyone, it's like the achievement of a lifetime. Goggins, he did it 3 times in a single year.
So you have to ask, right? What's the deal here? Was this guy just born with some kind of superhuman gene? Well, the answer, and really the core of his entire philosophy, is a hard no. Goggins says he was built, not born. And that's exactly what we're digging into, the blueprint he used to do it.
So where does a journey like this even begin? Well, for Goggins, it all starts with his very first and maybe his most important tool, the accountability mirror. To get it, we've got to go right back to the beginning, when he was staring a really brutal reality right in the face.
I mean, just look at this. This gives you a sense of just how deep the hole was that he had to climb out of. This wasn't just about being out of shape. He was carrying the trauma of an abusive childhood, dealing with constant racism, had learning disabilities, and he was working a dead-end job spraying for cockroaches. He was, as he puts it, at total rock bottom.
And then, one night, he's watching a documentary about the Navy SEALs. And something just clicks. A switch flips inside his head. And that one single moment of decision sparked one of the most incredible physical transformations you will ever see. And it happened with unbelievable speed over just 3 months.
So how did he actually start with this, the accountability mirror? And look, this isn't some feel-good motivational trick. It's kind of the exact opposite. It's an exercise in being brutally, radically honest with yourself. No sugarcoating, no be kind to yourself talk, just the raw, ugly truth spoken out loud to the one person you absolutely cannot lie to.
And I mean brutally honest. This is literally what he said to himself. He'd stand in front of the mirror and just call himself out on every single failure, every insecurity. Then he'd plaster sticky notes around that mirror with his goals, like go on a 2-mile run. It was all about owning that ugly truth so he could finally change the person he saw in the mirror. Okay, so once he was honest about where he was, he needed something to get him through the sheer pain of the journey ahead. And that led to his next big idea, a core concept for just shattering your limits, the 40% rule. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's a game changer. Our brains are basically wired to protect us, right? To keep us safe. So they send out these stop signals, pain, exhaustion, doubt, way before we're actually at our physical limit. Goggins argues that when your brain is screaming at you that you're done, you're toast, you're really only at about the 40% mark. And this right here just lays it all out, doesn't it? That first bar, that's the wall we all hit. That's the point where our mind tells us, nope, that's it, we're done here. But Goggins' philosophy is that on the other side of that wall is this massive reserve, a whole 60% of untapped potential that most of us never, ever touch.
But look, you can't go into a war with just a knife, especially the war inside your own head. Goggins knew he needed a whole arsenal of mental weapons to deal with his past, his trauma, and just the daily grind of pushing himself to the absolute edge. First up, this idea of an alter ego. He literally split himself in 2. Davidgoggins was the weak kid, the victim, the one who suffered abuse and was afraid of everything. But Goggins was the warrior, the Navy SEAL, the guy who was unbreakable. By creating this distance, he gave himself the psychological space to become who he wanted to be, not who he used to be.
All right, next up in the mental toolbox is something he calls the cookie jar. The whole idea here is to weaponize your own past successes. You basically store every single victory, every obstacle you've ever overcome in this mental cookie jar. Then, when you're in a moment of extreme pain or self-doubt, you reach in and pull one out. And this is something you can actually build for yourself. It's super practical. You just start documenting your wins. And it doesn't matter if they're big or small. Nailing a presentation at work, finishing your first 5K, all of it goes in the jar. The point is to create this library of evidence so that when your mind is telling you that you can't, you can pull out a cookie and remind it, oh yes, I can. I've done hard things before. So all these things, the mirror, the 40% rule, the cookie jar, they're all leading to one central idea, the absolute core of Goggins' philosophy. Mental toughness isn't some finish line you cross, it's a callus you have to build, day in and day out. And this is really the whole thing right here. Think about it. Your hands get calluses from lifting heavy stuff over and over. Your mind works the same way. It gets tougher through friction, by deliberately and consistently choosing to do the things that suck, the things you dread. That's how you build a protective layer against quitting. And here's Goggins just saying it flat out. All of this, every single tool, it's about systematically destroying that part of you that feels like a victim. It's about replacing it with a mind that is just hardened, resilient, and ready for whatever comes next. So, that really just leaves one question, doesn't it? The whole Goggins blueprint, it's about brutal honesty and then taking relentless action. It all starts not with some huge, heroic act, but with one single, uncomfortable truth. So, what's yours going to be?